Okay, so then we are starting. Welcome, Susanne. It's great to have you here. I look forward to hearing about your experiences and the book you wrote about your journey with TRE. And we have an audience here tonight, which is quite international. That's the idea of these talks, is to also meet each other across the different countries and international TRE community. So with that, I will welcome you, Susanne, and just let you introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, welcome everyone. This is exciting. And thank you, Hans. Thank you for making this possible, making this offer to everyone of hearing more about TRE and sharing our own experiences and sharing our knowledge and skills. So what I'm going to do is I have prepared a little bit of a journey along my book. I will not read from the book, as I said in the text. I wrote the text a long time ago, so I have changed my mind. But I prefer to speak to you freely instead of reading what I have written before. So let me just quickly look into the chat. I see some familiar faces. Hello. And from different countries and everywhere. Wonderful. Welcome, everyone. We do not have time to let everyone speak and introduce themselves as we normally do, but I think you can forgive us for this. So let's start. You can see this, yes? You can all see this. Good. I have called my book Shaking Myself Alive. By the time when I'm finished my talk, you know why. And the journey out of grief was what brought me to TRE. This all happened in 2008, which was now 14 years ago. And in 2008, I lost my husband, to cancer. And I found it incredibly difficult to recover from this. We had been together for more than 30 years and at the time, and we would have been very happy to spend another 10 or 20 years together. But it wasn't to be, and we were fortunate in the way that we were able to say goodbye and to prepare ourselves as best as one can prepare for this very life-changing experience of loss, of losing someone who was very close and very dear. And so this all happened in August 2008. And in the initial months, I was really feeling well, and I was feeling my mind was in the right place. There were we had lots of conversations. we were in one mind about what it means to pass away and to live on. And I had a strange experience. The way I experienced the sensation of grief was extensively physical, which means it felt like a physical attack. It felt as if someone was bashing me on the head from behind, stabbing me in the back, attacking me out of the blue. I could very often not reconcile this attack with anything that I was thinking or doing at the time. Even when my thoughts were occupied with something else and I felt happy and relaxed, this beast of grief was able to catch up with me from behind, totally out of the blue, unprepared. I think it was the first time that I had that experiences, PTSD experience that I had heard of, that they exist, that they are real. And I also knew that it is the body that is reacting to this. And that I was not bringing this about by the thoughts that I was thinking. So this brought me to look for ways to help my body first and foremost. I must say by that time I had already done a coaching certificate and I had a plan for the future, and I had done quite a bit of things to help myself mentally. I was also emotionally in a good place, not alone, surrounded by people who loved me and cared for me. So, the body. I had a friend in Germany who had traveled to California the year before and had picked up TRE there, just by chance. And he said to me, I think this is something for you to look into. Yeah, well, I thought California, But when I checked, when I asked the internet about TRE, I saw that David Biselli, the founder of TRE, was coming to South Africa. And it was only like 3 or 4 months away. And he was coming to my hometown. I mean, everyone is coming to Johannesburg or to Cape Town, but who comes to Durban? And David Biselli came to Durban. I mean, that alone is a reason to sit up and take notice, right? So I signed myself in for this experience without really knowing what it was. Although I had met some people who were busy with organizing this here, and I had done an introduction into TRE in a big group in a hall, but still. So On my first 3-day workshop of TRE with David Biselli, I was offered something new. And it is not often that we are offered something really new. New in the sense that it is not easy to categorize, not easy to put in a certain category of experience. So it was called TRE, and it looked like this. And what was new for me was that I felt safe in the company of strangers. I had never met anyone who was there. Meeting people that I have never seen before. I mean, the more they are, the more difficult it is for me to be there or to feel safe. And here, I managed to go there, to stay there, and to feel safe. And I knew pretty well that it had something to do not only with TRE as a method or as an activity that we were doing there, but it had something to do with the way David Biselli was leading this. It was by no means the first workshop I did. Also not the first group workshop, and also not the first workshop where we did somatic or embodiment methods. But something here was different. And I knew it had to do with the way that it was led. So during these 3 days, my body said yes, loud and clear. And my mind said, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. And I said, shut up, mind, I will do this now. You know, we are not just body and mind, we also have an agency, whatever you want to call it, that is over and above both. That is evaluating, criticizing, encouraging both our thoughts and our mind. And this entity, that's the one that always lives in the present. And this entity said, mind, be quiet, I'm going to do this. So yeah, and then we were sent home and told to do this at home. And write about it. Write about it, write a journal about it. If anyone's asking, and I forgot to tell you, the pictures that I'm using, this is all my work, but I have not done these pictures particularly for this book. They are part of the big stack of pictures that I have, and I chose them. I chose them because they fit into whatever I want to say or whatever I'm writing about. So my first 3 sessions at home were called Rattle, Click, and Smile because I really had fun with TRE. And I had immediate positive effects physically. I had the effect, for instance, of my jaw loosening up. My jaw had been treated not very nice at an operation that I had a few years ago. And during that operation, I also lost half of my hearing capacity. And ever since then, I had my jaw stiff and painful, and I was crunching my teeth in the night, and all of, well, some of these symptoms that one gets used to over time. And particularly this, although it was only my legs that were trembling and my hips, but I did notice that my jaw became loose. I did notice that even my facial expression was more alive. No, it's not really true. I was not so much aware. Other people became aware and told me about this. And then I noticed. And I also noticed that doing things on my own for me is a matter of safety, because I can do things at my pace and in my time. So my body said, thank you. And my mind said, but trauma. And the people around me said, oh, well, another of your fancy ideas. What comes next? But trauma means what you often hear. There must be something deep down there in some attic or cellar or compartment where I don't want to go, and what if the door opens? This is a mindset. It is an opinion that that myself and many other people I speak to have if they hear the word trauma. And anyway, what about grief? I came to this because of grief. But there was one day when I had, sorry, I have these birds here, they are really loud sometimes. One day when I had this attack again, I didn't resist it. I didn't resist means I did not hold my breath and tense my muscles, but I moved with it. I physically moved with it. And it went away immediately. You could say I danced with it. Like an involuntary movement in a way, but I let it happen. And from one second to the next, it was gone. Now the question came up, can it be so easy? Is it just about moving? Is it just about noticing I'm holding my breath and then breathing? Is that all? What I really had to acknowledge at that point was that I felt more alive, that I was feeling more pleasure just being in my body, that my sensations felt more fluid, and that I experienced something of expansion of inner space. Now, the sessions 4 to 6 were very different. Because after these sessions, I felt extensively nauseous, tired, sluggish, unfocused. And I was asking myself, how can physical exercise and movement, which essentially is TRE, how can it produce this kind of nausea? That was very familiar to me. I lived in that. I had it all the time. I had it, I knew it forever. Felt safe. It was a mind space. And sometimes it didn't feel safe because I was required to be participating in what was going around me, but I couldn't. I felt removed and out of the picture, nearly invisible. So this thing at the time didn't have a name for me, but I did notice. And I decided I want to be in control of it. And I don't want to be swept away by it. So what I did was basically that I did shorter sessions. I moved a lot. I moved around a lot during the tremoring. Here are a few things that come with it and are part of my my everyday life. Maybe you can relate to some of them. Floating through situations without feeling attentive and awake. Relying on recollection and reflection in hindsight. Ideas and replies in a discussion or a situation come too late. Difficulty to speak spontaneously. Needing a good amount of internal pressure to actually speak. And then, if that pressure is there, tending to interrupt other people with a sense of urgency, which means making strong and emotional statements. So this, I was either a silent nobody and reprimanded for being too quiet, or I was an intense intruder being reprimanded for being rude. It was never just good enough. And what happens there is frustration. Then the mind wants to justify this or explain it. And in the end, if I try for years to change that and I can't change it, I will begin to accept it and say that's just the way I am, so I identify with that. I'll make a big story around it. Why I'm not fitting in, why I don't like being with people, why I can't do this and can't do that. So I identify with this. And for the first time, the question came up for me, what if this is not a personality trait? and can actually change. So this was a dissociation story, and we have already half an hour gone. So I need to pick my pace up. Session number 7. Session number 7 was a group meeting. And I did go, although I was apprehensive of meeting in the group, but I did go. And during this group meeting, I was on the mat and I was shaking and my eyes were closed and I was not in the room and I was somewhere in some crowd, and one of the other people went, was a small space, and she grabbed my feet and put them from left to right, and I didn't see it coming. And I had an excessively violent anger reaction to being touched. It felt like I was thrown down from the cloud onto the earth. And if I hadn't succeeded in jumping up and running out of the room and into the garden, I would probably have strangled her. Now, this is not easy to understand. I can criticize myself for it, and she can be very apologetic, and she can but we made this a topic to speak about, and we identified what was happening, and I was able to recall why I reacted to that. I'm not telling you now, but it's in my book. There was a reason why I reacted strongly to being touched out of the blue and never saw it coming. So the result of this experience and the reflection on it can be expressed as tremoring brings us in touch with healthy life energy. That was energy, like a truckload of energy, that is dormant, often forgotten, and sometimes feared. The path is to let it out in small bursts, regulate it, and reflect on the experience. And even the experience of too much has great value and yields a lot of personal information. And non-judgmental presence of others is a catalyst for healing. If we had not been able to make this a topic, to speak about it, and to hold space for each other in that, it would have just been another episode. And it wasn't. I had a good sense of that, that with this experience, something else was resolved for good. So now the next 2 sessions were really fun sessions again. They were laugh, cry, and roll, whereby I was able to and enjoyed, and also for the first time, able to separate the sensation of emotion from the mental judgment attached to it. When I say the sensation of emotion, what I really mean is that emotion is not in the mind. Emotion rises up from the body. It is a physical sensation. the mind tries to interpret that. And it's getting better and better at it, but also creates certain patterns around it, thought patterns. We're putting labels on everything. It is the same thing that happens when children are small and they look at nature outside and they are full of wonder and want to know. Once you have told them what that name is, then they're not looking anymore. They have seen it. So I started to pretend that I don't know what these things mean, even if the mind thinks, if the mind insists. I also found out that believing my thoughts is a habit, and that questioning my thinking is vital. Also, that pretending is more valuable than it seems. Pretense or pretending has a bad reputation, but if you look at children playing, you would very well understand why it is important sometimes to pretend and just to try different things. So it's more valuable than it seems. And if I can anticipate doom, I can just as well anticipate joy. It's up to me. I also realized that I do not subscribe, or it doesn't ring with me, the concept of getting rid of trauma or deal with trauma. Because I want to feel all and everything, I just want to be able to choose. And recognizing physical patterns, like reaction patterns, things that just happen, a bit like a click of a button. Recognizing that in the moment when it happens makes it possible to change states immediately and without the mind needing to think about it. Also for this, I have a few stories in my book of how this happened and how I got to this. So as much as I had evidence right here and then, I found it unbelievable that this is all it takes. Too easy. Too simple. And if it's true that this is all it takes, why is not everybody doing this? 2 more sessions that were really very important. In the 11th session, I had a revisitation of grief from my past. I did remember that it was not the first time that I was grieving, because I lost my first mother when I was 3 years old. And I lost my second mother when I was 6. How that happened, you can also read it. It's a bit of a strange family story, but I grew up with 2 mothers for the first 3 years of my life. And the first mother left and the second mother passed away. So, and this was just the time when I was supposed to go to school. an only child, and absolutely overprotected in the care of adults who was as old as they could all have been my grandfathers and grandmothers. So my fear of abandonment was real. I did not go to school. I found ways not to go to school. I couldn't sleep. I lay in my bed immobile and cold, unable to move. I also had violent outbursts of anger and despair whenever my father wanted to go somewhere and didn't take me along. And I found ways to avoid what I didn't want. For instance, going to school. I did not believe that my parents or the adults around me would deliberately leave me alone or put me somewhere. But life as such seemed to be a very dangerous thing and unpredictable. So I ran head on into the belief that the people closest to me could all of a sudden disappear and nothing could be done about it. So when all of this came up, it came up during the session because I had a freeze response, very easy. The body tensing up. I remembered this. I went through it. And I recalled this. The mind said, I'm done with that old story. That is long gone. And the body said, you are not. And again, the space or the possibility that was opened up by tremoring was my ability to choose a response. Because I was able to allow any and all sensation, including the freeze, without fear. The last session that is in my journal, that is based on my first 12 sessions, this journey, but obviously looking back from where I am now, 12 years later, I can see how in the beginning these things were put in the ground as seeds. So then I went on to what I call a treasure hunt. Because more and more I was able to recall a whole lot of information, a whole lot of experiences that I had not remembered for years came back. And came back in a very alive and interesting way, including the emotions that come with it. And not just the painful experiences, not just the fear and the freeze, but also my victories. You'll find some victory stories in the book. They were connected mostly to physical activity and new experience and a sense of adventure. But what struck me when I remembered that was I realized that at the time, at the time when I was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, at the time, I kept my strength and my courage a secret. I never told anyone about what I was doing and all my achievements. For me, these were achievements, but I didn't tell anyone because it was unsafe to be strong and courageous. Why? Because I found that I lose my protection or my connection to the people who cared for me, because I was deemed to be very, let's put it like this, like a fragile child that needs to be looked after forever. So all of these things that maybe other children can run home and say, I did this and I did that, these were all secrets that I kept somewhere. In some strange way, I had kept all of this away for many years. I know for myself that I was capable, and more capable than anyone thought, but I was unable to show it. The treasure hunt continued with a recall of a conversation between one of my aunts when I was 6 years old, and my second mother had just passed away. And I was grieving and totally unhappy with what I had been told, why this happened or what happened. It didn't make sense to me. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear that she was in heaven and looking down at me. I didn't want her to look down on me all the time. Who wants to be looked down at all the time? Not even by my mother. So I had this conversation with my aunt that I was able to recall completely. And in this conversation, she gave me an explanation that was, for me, the best she could do, the best she could tell me. She was present with me. She took me serious. She saw me. She heard me. And I knew that she was a lady who also lost her husband during the war. And I knew that she was a joyful lady, full of love. And in that way, she was able to tell me or to give me the confirmation that it is possible to recover. In the sense, if I can do it, you can do it. What she did was perfect co-regulation. I had just told her that I will never, ever be happy again. And 5 minutes later, I was laughing. And she sat me down and said, see what you said? And now that I've told you we're baking a cake together, then that suddenly you're happy again. It was the best way to navigate this from an adult perspective. And after recalling this conversation with my aunt, I had a very important insight. I knew that grief felt like an empty space in myself. Something was missing. Something that I had before was missing. And all of a sudden I knew that that empty space is not in myself. That empty space is outside myself. In the sense that I was not able to reach the other person who had gone away. But that's put it like an antenna, maybe like feeders or something, something that goes out for me that is not reaching the intended target. Now I can pull these in, I can direct them somewhere else, but inside of me, there is no loss. Another insight for me was I have started this journey on the prerogative or on the thought or on the not illusion, but on the premise of shaking myself calm and relaxed. Calm and relaxed was always in everybody's mouth with TRE. I had also often heard shaking it off. And I realized that for me, I wasn't shaking myself calm and relaxed. I had heard all my life, how can you be so calm? How can you be so relaxed? Was I calm and relaxed? No. I was dissociated. I wasn't there. It didn't concern me. I found that I was shaking myself alive. I gained energy. I increased the tension. I increased the sensation. Not less, more. And I also didn't feel that I have been shaking anything off, not even tension. And the release, the thing of releasing, it is in itself a loss of something. Even if we think you want this, well, okay, you want to have pain going away or tension going away, but think about tensegrity. It's a relationship between the stable parts and the flexible parts that hold the whole. You see, if you just put the tension away, everything falls, collapses. And releasing, or for that matter, change, in a way always implies to let something go, to get rid of, like to do something away, and always in some way creates the sense of an empty space. And if that empty space of release cannot be filled with a gain of pleasure and aliveness, then there is no point. So people need to not just release, they need to know what they're getting there instead of it, how they can fill that. if we want to stay with the release thing. So physical, emotional, and mental flexibility is the word that I found much more appropriate. And now I must strictly switch the light on because it's getting dark here in the room. Coming back just now. Yeah, better. And here I'm saying that in other words, again, I'm reading it now. I was recovering from the loss of a beloved person. But we also grieve for the loss of youth or health or beliefs or a home, a job, lost opportunities, or even for the loss of our story or identification point. The basics are the same. Grief is a sense of being incomplete, a loss of part of ourselves. And there was the connection. For me, living with the physical and emotional remnants of old survival responses, we may literally and in reality lose connection to our body. Connection to our body means losing connection to the body means losing connection, losing emotional capacity. And again, the ability to feel sensations on a subtle level, not just pain, not just like the strong tension, not just anything above a certain threshold, but subtle sensations within the body. The more we can feel there, and the more variety there is, that is equivalent to the quality and to the connection to our environment. The safer we feel in the body, the more we can stay in touch with our body, even in stressful situations. The easier it is to stay connected to the environment. With that, I mean predominantly other people, but also to actually be active in the world, see opportunities, hear, participate. And while there are many useful ways of repairing the disconnect and imbalance within the physical body and the mind, TRE has some advantages. It works from the bottom up, and it is experiential and self-directed. It works without needing to learn theory, but it offers pathways into many areas of knowledge. It is not attached to any particular belief system, but allows people to integrate it into all of them. A very big thing for me. The non-attachment to belief systems. It combines well with any other physical exercise or wellness routine people may use. It is empowering in the best sense of the word. And there is no script and no competition, like in many other modalities, where one has to reach a certain benchmark. Also, if the body and mind are at war with each other, it is the body that will win. Always. And about the story is changing anyway. As we get older and have gained more experience, our story about ourselves, who we are, why we are the way we are, changes anyway. It has to change. It is always lacking some detail. It can be outright false. It can even perpetuate this dissociation and freeze, and it can justify anger, resentment, and codependence. That story can be damaging to some extent or hindering. And we are good at storytelling and then identifying with that story that we're telling ourselves. Especially because diagnoses are often labels and people identify with labels very easily. And then you have them sitting there and telling you that they have this and this and this and this. And it is helpful in a sense because you might feel safe with a diagnosis or safer with a diagnosis than without knowing what's wrong with you, but you also want to hold on to that diagnosis. Because it's now part of who you are. And it is difficult to let this go, to even allow the thought that it could be totally different. So I'm saying bottom up is inherent in the way we are built. Because when we are born, we have no brain. We have a remnant of a brain. We have an instinctual brain. That is all we have. And the words and the labels and the understanding and everything comes much later. So 1 minute left. You look at this. Here are some acknowledgements. Some acknowledgements to David, friends, family, to Hans, and to all of you, whether I know you or not, in the sense that acknowledgements to all the people who have been doing TRE with me or who I have met along the way, and I have met wonderful people. And thank you, everyone who is practicing TRE and spreading the word about TRE and telling others or teaching others. And here's my book that is available from Amazon. I have put a promotion through from the 1st to the 5th of September for people to download it for free. I hope Amazon, I hope it works. But I have done it. And if you want to get in contact with me, or if you want to know something more or something, there's my website address. It's called SuThomasOnline-TRE.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Susanne. That was an absolutely wonderful talk. And I enjoyed both the storytelling and your illustrations, which were a very refreshing element compared to regular slideshow and stock images.
Yeah, you know what? I have thought about, do I do a slideshow or not? No, I don't want to see my face talking all the time on the screen. But otherwise, I would have rather interacted with you all, you know. But yeah. Then I thought, yes, I do a slideshow, but not a slideshow where you need to read a lot. More like a, yeah, you can look at it, but you.
I think it was very refreshing, actually, to
yeah.
enjoyable. So we have in 15 minutes, we have another session where we will do TRE. It's necessary to sign up to that session for those who want to participate. It's still possible to sign up via the webpage. Some have already signed up, so we will meet you in a few minutes, 6:15. So, and to the rest of you, I will say thank you very much for participating and making this possible, and being part of this talk. We cannot do it without an audience, and this is also what is invigorating and motivating for us who are organizing and giving the talks as well. So thank you very much. We will have more talks coming up shortly. Next week Richmond Heath from Australia will talk. His talk was postponed. It will be about TRE in sports. And then Fiona Soma will later this autumn talk about TRE and sound, where we'll experiment with sound as well in the TRE session following the talk. And I'm also emailing with David, who has said yes to give a talk as well, probably later this year. So if anyone have suggestions for anyone who should or who they want to hear speak, please let us know. I would be interested in myself in hearing a talk about TRE with teens and children. That would be very interesting. So thank you very much for this evening. Thank you, Susanne, again. And I hope to see you again at a later occasion. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Double wave. Good. Bye-bye. Okay, so let's end the talk here. The recording.